This week's video is sponsored by Babbel.
Well, I'm about to show all of you and Luke, who's behind the camera, one of my big royal discoveries.
I'm super excited because these are royal discoveries that I don't know anything about.
No, and it has nothing to do with this Earl either. So a lot of times people think, oh, well, the first Earl of Sandwich who brought Charles II, King Charles II back from exile, we might have a lot of sort of Charles II stuff, but this is, for me as an American, this is bigger and better. So there is something American about it as well, American royalty. Well, I don't want to give too much away.
You're making it so tantalizing.
Anyway, what I wanted to show Luke and everybody, one of the videos that we did earlier this year was, of course, around the coronation of King Charles III, and it was the first time that peers they weren't all invited, and
we weren't invited.
We weren't invited.
I was sitting by the letterbox. It just never came.
Ha ha. I don't think you were. And your father wasn't invited, but we were able to find the coronation robes that were worn by your forebears. You can see here, Earl of Sandwich, lovely sewn in. So these are the coronation robes that in the past, from basically 1953, prior to that, 1953 when Queen Elizabeth II was crowned, these coronation robes were worn by all of the peers. So Earl of Sandwich, all the earls, all the dukes, all the marquises, all the viscounts, and so on and so on.
And these were somewhat lost until we discovered them.
In a black
recently.
bin liner.
In a bin liner, in an old chest.
In a chest. And so what was really exciting is that we were able to take these out and put them on display, not here, but in another place in the house, put them on the display when the house was open to the public, which it is for many months throughout the year, put them on display. And it was really exciting because this coronation was the first time that these robes weren't being worn, and they'll probably never be worn again at a coronation, people were really excited to see them. So we were able to put them on display. However, you can see here, Luke, that, they're really, really fragile and they need some massive repair. So you can see the silk here needs repair, and this is the waistcoat. And then you have, of course,
the terrible thing is
the robe, which again has the name of it. I just want to point that out as well. So
the terrible thing is that I think I remember wearing these as a child, dressing up and pretending to be kings and queens.
Yeah, that's
and of
terrible.
course that probably wasn't very good for the material, was it?
No, and then we've got, if you're wondering what this small one for, this was for the Countess to wear. So she would usually wear this and then sometimes wear a tiara in front of it. So
she must have had a very small head.
Well, you would kind of perch it on the back and then you would put your tiara
Maybe you put your bun of hair into it.
Maybe. Right. So, well, what's really exciting is that I have been able to raise funds through Buy Me a Coffee and to have these robes restored. So you guys are all going to be able to watch this journey. So thank you to so many of you who kindly bought these robes, many cups of coffee, in order for them to be properly restored. And it's not like you can just send these to anybody. They look at the inside here. And it's not saying we can get rid of these. These would be water stains, and it's quite long. Get rid of these, but you have to send them to an expert. And so your father actually has put me in touch with somebody, and I will be taking these robes to London for the robes to then be restored and repaired.
That must mean that somewhere there is a specialist coronation robe restoration expert.
Well, I think that there are several. So there are several.
There must be quite a market for these things.
There must have been. But anyway, I just want to say a huge thank you to so many of you who have, again, bought these robes, cups of coffee, because this is the last time you're going to see them sitting out here. I'm going to package them up and then get them off to London. and we can hopefully check in and watch the repair happen. I'd like to do it myself, but I'm definitely not an expert in this, and I need this to be done properly.
Thank you for all those cups of coffee, but it does rather look as though somebody spilt a cup of coffee.
I know, look at
this
that.
one.
I know.
Look at those marks there.
They just are so fragile. So once, by the way, if you're wondering what will happen to the robes afterwards, what will happen is once they get restored, which will take a while, we will then package them up and securely put them away until, well, till, I don't know, probably the next coronation, we might put them out on display.
Is that the one we're going to get invited to?
No, I don't think we're ever going to get invited to
But
one.
Julie, just one thing. That was an aristocratic discovery, but it wasn't a royal discovery.
Yeah, I know.
That's coming up, is it?
That is coming up.
Excellent.
So there's, and it's got an American connection.
Are we going there now?
No.
Oh.
Because I have one more. It's in the kitchen, everybody. It's really, so basically, we've just recently had a couple things sort of come back into the family, and this one's really exciting. So this one, wait for, and then it's the royal discovery, but this is a treasure that's been in the family for at least 200 years and was kindly gifted back by somebody out there, and it's exciting.
Lo stesso tragitto.
When I was finally able to travel to Italy and begin the renovations of my little Italian house, I did not know how to speak Italian, and it was a real roadblock when trying to communicate. But fast forward to today, and thanks to the help of Babbel, one of the top language learning apps in the entire world, I'm now confident in speaking the Italian language every single time I visit Italy. Io posso dare qualcosa? And as we step into the new year, this is the best time to solidify your commitment to learning a new language. And I understand that tackling something new can be challenging, particularly when it comes to acquiring a new language. And if you've experienced waning motivation with past New Year's resolutions, I am the same. Fear not, because Babbel is here to support you, boasting expertly crafted lessons, captivating games, immersive podcasts, and even live classes. Babbel is meticulously designed to empower you in having meaningful, real-world conversations. If I can make such huge progress, I'm confident you can as well. So click the link in the description down below or scan the QR code to get 60% off on your Babbel subscription during their New Year's sale. Also, I would love to hear what language you're keen on learning, and if learning a new language is one of your New Year resolutions. Comment down below. I feel like everybody's getting a real tour of the house as well.
I'm getting a tour of the house.
Yeah, which by the way, if you haven't seen that video, tour of the finest manor house in England, that has been one of our best videos in 2023. It's had over 200,000 views. So do check it out if you want a proper tour.
There's nothing like a good house tour.
That's exactly right. So this is really exciting. Listen, the royals are happening and it's got an American connection. These copper pots would have been seen in country houses, you know, sort of up and down the country. I mean, this is what the kitchens, all the kitchens and the cooks in the kitchens would have had loads of these lined up, and very much like this with this hearth here and, you know, again, well, the aga, of course, but before it used to be proper fire. I mean, this is 2 feet long, almost a foot wide, and about, I'd say, half a foot, 6 inches high. Now, what's so interesting about this is that, of course, at Hinchingbrooke, which was the original family ancestral seat that was sold in the 1950s, a lot of the collection and a lot of just sort of the bits there were sold in the sale. And
Can I talk about that for a second?
yeah,
I mean, I think it's one of the great sadnesses, because when my grandfather decided to sell Hinchingbrooke, he kept all of the finest pictures, the finest pieces of furniture, the kind of core of the collection, but he sold so many of the things that gave that house texture. He sold all of the items that would have been part of the kitchen, part of the way the house was run.
Even the garden.
Things he may not ever have even noticed in his life because he would rarely go into the kitchens.
Yeah.
And so, Julie, can I just congratulate you on getting at least one of these items back, because it means a lot.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's so exciting. So, and the reason that we know that this is ours, well, there's a story behind this, and the story is fascinating, but can you just look at this embossed S with the coronet here? And this, of course, would be the marking that would have been put on all of the copper pots at Hinchingbrooke, the S for sandwich, the Earl's coronet there, and there would have been a huge collection, and to get one back, and especially one this big, is actually really, really exciting. And you're probably wondering, how did we get these back? And we've been really lucky, Luke, don't you agree, that since we started our YouTube channel, so many people have contacted us, whether it's paintings or it's the glassed goblets that had the coat of arms, the Montague's coat of arms on them.
It's been one of the amazing benefits of having such a lovely community of people following our story here at Mapperton, because so many people then go off and they look for things on our behalf.
Yeah.
And we've got back some amazing treasures.
So how did this copper pot end up back in our kitchen 60 plus years later? Well, near Hinchingbrooke, there was an RAF base, so a Royal Air Force base called RAF Brampton, where a young flight lieutenant, Joe Pasquini, served as a photographic interpreter. And anyway, one day he and his young bride were walking down the high street, and they happened to acquire this piece from a local antique shop, which means that it had been sold from the Hinchingbrooke sale. And for over 60 years, this pot traveled with them across the UK to Australia and the United States, and they often had it displayed by their fireplace. Before RAF Brampton, Flight Lieutenant Joe Pasquini was part of the RAF 76 Squadron stationed in Australia during the British nuclear tests on Christmas Island in the late 1950s, and his squadron flew through the mushroom cloud of Operation Grapple Y, the largest British nuclear test ever, equivalent to 3,000 kilotons of TNT. Despite the risks, Flight Lieutenant Joe Pasquini and his squadron collected samples from the cloud to understand the explosion's strength, which helped to contribute to Britain's Cold War strategy. Unfortunately, Flight Lieutenant Joe Pasquini passed away 2 years ago after battling cancer for decades. After 60 plus years, Flight Lieutenant Joe Pasquini and all the British nuclear test veterans will be posthumously recognized with a medal bearing the image of King Charles III. And this honors their crucial Cold War contributions to national safety. So I just want to say a huge thank you to the Pasquini family for returning this relic, preserving not only a piece of British history, but also championing the story of historic houses, our story in Britain, and of course the tale of British nuclear test veterans. It's really vital for understanding and preserving all of our shared history. So what a great story. I quite like our show and tell video today.
Well, again, thank you also from me. It's just incredible to have this back in the family.
It's quite exciting. We have to figure out where we're going to put it. I mean, it will be like a centerpiece as well, I think.
I think there are a few places in here we could put it.
No, I definitely want to keep it in the kitchen.
But again, this is
quite nice here too.
We've had an aristocratic discovery. I would call this a culinary discovery, but it's not yet a
aristocratic
royal,
culinary discovery. It's a treasure. It's a lost treasure.
But it's not yet a royal discovery.
That's right. I was saving the best for last on our show and tell, and a tour of. We've walked through so many rooms now. Now we're going to go into the Munimit room, aka the archive room, where I'm doing all my research on your great grandmother, Alberta, the American heiress and 9th Countess of Sandwich, who came over at the turn of the 20th century, and she's the subject of my dissertation. But researching her, I came across something that, as an American, made me really excited, and this one is Royal Luke. now we're in the muniment room for my show and tell. So again, this muniment room was in 2023 completely renovated. It looks, I love being, I'm in here all the time, aren't I, Luke?
This is Julie's room. It's not the muniment room anymore.
No, that's not
It is
true.
her room. And it's actually a room that I'm a little bit jealous of because I sit often working in a back sitting room with no view. And look at her view.
I know.
Look at that.
Quite nice.
And soon you will be seeing the eagles flying again.
Exactly.
From their plinths. Right, what's in the box?
Royal
Discoveries.
Yeah, Royal Discoveries, everybody. And I love these metal tins, and they have, these is what your forebears would take everywhere anytime they traveled. So this one has Earl of Sandwich. This one has Earl of Sandwich. There's one over there that's Viscount Hinchingbrooke. But inside, when I was restoring the muniment room, I found all these metal cases, and I eventually need to put them properly into archive boxes. But for now, until I have the time, I've just been able to, you open them up and it's just like treasure after treasure. So I was looking for something, like I always am, and I came across this. So this is what I want to show you, everybody. This is the Royal Discovery.
And I am seeing this for the first time.
Yes, you are.
As well, so I'm equally excited.
Okay. So inside here, it's so exciting. Be super careful. I pulled this out, and all of a sudden, I see two words.
Before you do anything, we will get some comments of people saying, "Why aren't you wearing gloves?"
Yeah, but so we don't really, best practices now are actually not to wear gloves, because gloves you can't feel. And so therefore you have more of a tendency to actually rip the paper wearing gloves. So many times when you go and visit other collections, they won't actually be wearing gloves. You just need to make sure your hands are clean. Mine are clean. So before we did this scene, I made sure that mine were washed.
You are of course wearing your mittens because it's chilly here at Mapperton.
Well, I always wear fingerless gloves. I'm never without a pair of fingerless gloves. I mean, I must have at least 20 pairs now, because so many of you sent them to me as well. Some of them have even knitted some, which are amazing. I'm sorry I'm not wearing those right now. Anyway, back to the two words. So this is February, well, possibly the 8th, but it's definitely 1806. And it's from the King. That's what made me excited, of course, when I saw this.
That does say the King.
It does say the King.
Gosh, that is a Royal Discovery.
It is a Royal Discovery.
No doubt about it.
So it's beautiful. And I open it up, and there you are. Now, it is signed by the King. Now, can you remember who the King was during this period? Think.
George II, George III.
There we go.
Somebody.
George III. So this is, of course,
Mad King.
After what I would say the Revolutionary War, but in Europe or England, you say the War of Independence. And this is signed George R. So because they all signed, can you explain the R? It's the same with like Elizabeth II would always sign Elizabeth R. Charles III signs Charles R.
It's a little bit smudged. R means Rex, so George Rex. It's very well written though, isn't it? Though of course
beautifully written.
He wouldn't have written it himself.
No, he didn't.
But can you read it?
Yeah. So it's basically, it says Queen's Palace, February 8th, 1806. I'm just going to get into the light here. And it says, the King has received Lord Sandwich's letter and has seen an additional proof of his attachment in the recordings with which he has resigned his, looks like situation, when being made aware of the circumstances which could unavoidably despair his majesty of his further, I think, invoices in something smudged. The King something notice Lord Sandwich, and when this something without opening, looks like him that at all times sends his good wishes. So anyway, if I had more time to, and I'm sorry I haven't had more time. I didn't know that Luke was going to ask me to read
obviously,
this on camera.
we're going to want to read it.
Because usually I'm very good at transcribing.
You have a team of transcribers who help out on that. You've done a brilliant job of reading that. It sounds like some business correspondence. The question is, which Earl? Would it have been the 6th Earl or the 5th Earl?
So this would have been the 6th Earl. So
6th Earl.
Yeah, I know, because I know my Earls so well now. So this would have been the 6th Earl, George. So this would have been the
George,
6th Earl.
from George to George.
Yeah, from George to George.
He doesn't sound altogether happy about whatever it is. Maybe he has displeased the king in some way. Well, we shall have to investigate further.
I am going to have to, but how lovely to have. I mean, I know it's been smudged, and of course I'm going to look at ways of making sure that these are, I think, archived. What Luke doesn't know, and you're all hearing this first on camera along with him, is that I have recently, because of the Buy Me coffees that we had here, I've recently purchased just a little bit more archiving material, which the restoration of the Mean Mint Room also funded as well, and I needed a little bit more. And so there's things like being able to put these in proper archive boxes in acid-free paper. I've got some acid-free folders, acid-free envelopes. I have the ability to repair. Can I show you one more thing? Just everybody, one more thing. Sorry, I get super excited when I'm in here. So if so also, I've just found this. February 9th, everybody. This is happening right on camera. Lord Sandwich's answer to the king's letter.
Well,
so this is the next day. We've got to read that
one out.
Holy cow. Oh my goodness, February 9th. Sir, I had the honor of receiving a letter from Your Majesty yesterday evening, forwarded to me by the Lieutenant Colonel Taylor, which I can Your Majesty's given me the greatest comfort, as I now know Your Majesty that my conduct something, but deemed Your Majesty something. So something about your conduct upon something deemed Your Majesty.
Okay.
Anyway, but something about his conduct. Something.
Well, hopefully that was a positive response. It sounded as though it was, though of course with the formality of language in those times, it can be quite hard to decipher.
What I'm going to do for everybody is I'm going to follow up with these letters, because then there's a letter the next day from, it looks like, the king's brother, the Duke of York. Anyway, we won't read into that now, but that is, it looks like he's resigning, and that's what it is. So he's resigning from something. And I don't know if it was bad conduct or whatever it was, but I will get to the bottom of this, everybody, and find out.
Now that is
for sure.
Is an extraordinary royal discovery.
It is. To have George III's signature is quite exciting. So I will be preserving this a little bit better, everybody. But right now, it's going to go back into the envelope. It has survived 250 years.
That was an incredible royal discovery, but I remember you saying that it was royal discoveries.
Yep,
plural. There's more.
There's more.
Oh my goodness.
There's more. So in this book here, when I'm archiving, I just write down, not on a computer, but actually write down sort of areas of interest and the date. So I have found, you can see here, Earl of Sandwich, large metal case, signed letter from George III. But if I go back to the 30th of December, in box file number 83, I found something. So let's go to box file number 83, which is right here.
Look at these lovely new box files.
Okay, so I opened this up. You can probably see right away. And there were photos in here. And one of the photos that I found was the signature of Queen Victoria. This would have definitely been sent to, so that looks like 1897, and that would have been sent to the 8th Earl of Sandwich, Edward. And he was friends with Queen Victoria. And in fact, he was very good friends with her son at the time, the Prince of Wales, who eventually became King Edward VII. They were very, very close. They spent a lot of time together. So this makes sense that this was...
It's a famous picture of Queen Victoria. It's quite well known, but this is one of the ones that she would have sent out and signed herself. You can see again, Victoria R at the top, and Regina, which is Queen.
Yep. So that was so what do you think I should do with this? Should I frame it or should I keep it back in?
I think quite good to put that one in a frame. I can see another picture here, which is rather fascinating.
I know.
Now, who are these two gentlemen?
Speaking of the 8th Earl of Sandwich, who I just mentioned was friendly with Queen Victoria and her son, the Prince of Wales, eventually King Edward VII. This is the 8th Earl of Sandwich. They're standing outside Hinchingbrooke because I recognize the gatehouse there. The 8th Earl of Sandwich and his younger brother, Victor. And Victor was the father of George, who became the 9th Earl of Sandwich, who married Alberta because the 8th Earl never had any children. He was a bachelor for life. And look what they're doing there. Look close.
Yeah,
it's so amazing.
That is my great-great-grandfather.
Yes.
And it looks like they have some early kind of telephone set.
Isn't that amazing?
And they're talking to each other.
Isn't that fantastic? And they thought it was just so sort of, such a new, exciting adventure that they took a picture of themselves. So outside Hinchingbrooke, the gatehouse you can see just in the back. Anyway, it's really fun going through all of...
Look at all these things. And there's more. Just leafing through here, we can see another royal discovery.
Oh, yes.
Because this is a photo of Kaiser Wilhelm from 1912.
A very Merry Christmas, it says.
And he was good friends with Agneta Montagu and her children.
So Agneta was married to Victor, who I just mentioned, and Agneta's son was George. So Agneta and Victor were married. Agneta's son was George, who married Alberta. And she came from quite a distinguished family. So she was Lady Agneta York, and she was the daughter, I believe, of the Earl of Hardwicke, if I'm correct.
I think
I am correct.
That is correct. Look at all these discoveries. More royalty. There's more.
Do you know who this is?
Well, is that also...
It's the same.
That is also Kaiser Wilhelm.
Exactly.
And there are his signatures, and also...
He sent quite a lot to
look at that.
Agneta.
He's got a very fine moustache, hasn't he?
He certainly does. So
right, well, we better not show off too many discoveries because
so fun.
We need to have more to discover in the future.
It is really fun. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I don't know. I think it's quite fun, but this opportunity for us to be able to share with you some of the treasures that have come back because of many of you out there who have notified us, and obviously that copper pot, but of course the treasures that we're able to find ourselves going through the here of the Montagu Sandwich family. Especially for the American, it's so much fun.
There is nothing more fun than a good rummage in the archives, particularly when there are royal discoveries to be made. Thank you, Julie.
Anyway, I'm going to get back to work on my dissertation, but in the meantime, be sure to like, comment, turn notifications on, and if you're interested in your family's genealogy or some of your family archives, do comment down below because it's always interesting to hear what you've uncovered. Bye, everybody.
Don't forget to click the link in the description to get 60% off your Babbel subscription during their New Year's sale.